Joshua Thanos, my partner in crime and life partner as well, Jason Main. And who's this handsome guy in the middle?
And I'm Roman Sharf. What's up, guys?
Roman Sharf, a good friend of ours, friend of the company, friend of the show, and a new friend to Jason Main.
First introductions. Obviously, we know who you are, and you've been around the game for a while.
That's right.
First time meeting you in the flesh. But this
Going
should be
well.
interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. So, Roman, normally we do wrist checks. So how about this? We'll save the best for last because we know what you're wearing is better than what we got on. So let's do mine first. All right, guys. So this is a watch that if you saw the last show that I was on, let's see if we can get a close-up. There you go. Panerai 233. I'm still in the honeymoon phase with this watch. I'm absolutely obsessed with this watch. They have it on OEM bright orange rubber Panerai strap. It's an 8-day movement GMT AM PM indicator with a date, and I love it. 44 millimeter on my 7-inch wrist with the tang buckle. Oh man, I'm obsessed with this thing. Jason, what do you got?
I have the tested and true 114060. So as I like to call it, the non-date. Get a lot of hate for that.
Oh,
but
the non-date.
This thing
Rolex.
has been through it all. Actually, someone asked me if it was new the other day, and I was surprised because it's got some wear on it, but it still looks pretty decent. You know what? Just wearing the Explorer 2, wearing my Octo Finissimo, and every time I put this thing back on, it's just like, yeah, I remember why I like this watch. It's just simple, every day. It doesn't matter. It fits the profile, and it's a good. If you're only going to have one watch, one Rolex specifically, I think it's a good piece to have.
Yeah. You Rolex fan?
It's just basic model.
Roman?
Oh, vintage.
Okay, you're
very,
vintage.
Very much so.
Yeah.
In fact, the only watch I will never sell is my single red sub, which I picked up for like $6,000.
Wow.
Complete box papers.
I can't imagine what that's worth right
It's
now.
worth a lot more now, but that's the one watch I will never
Speaking
sell.
about worth a lot, what do you got on the wrist today?
Well, if you guys would have gave me a heads up, I would have put on a sports watch as well. But I put on the new Lange Perpetual Calendar split-second chronograph in rose gold.
We get that close up. That thing is awesome. Are we getting it? Oh, man.
One of the watches that I absolutely admire, especially this new particular model, because of its size. I'm a big AP guy. That's my favorite brand. You always find me wearing clunkers from AP, Offshores, Royal Oaks, and things of that nature. Rarely do I reach for a dress watch, and Lange is the one brand I'll always reach for when it comes to dress pieces, just due to the size, the overall aesthetics, and the quality of the watch. I mean, I guess I have to show you the back of this thing.
Please, yeah, that's
because this is what you really need to appreciate. Can you get a close-up on that? There you
go.
go.
Oh, my Lord.
I mean, that's just... I wish I could wear it upside down, honestly.
Yeah, inside out.
Inside out.
They should patent that buckle, the point buckle that's reversible, so you could just stare at it for like a date.
Okay. I'm gonna give
Jason's
him
a marketing guy.
I'm gonna give him a call.
I can tell you, so the exhibition case back shot was great on that piece. When you had it on your wrist, we both played with this watch prior to the video. That does it no justice. That thing is gorgeous in person.
It's ridiculous.
It's really, really nice.
Yeah, well, it wears like a sport watch. It's big,
And that's
thick, it's
that's
beefy.
and that's why I love it, and it's thick too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about as thick as a Panerai. It's
41
not thicker.
millimeter?
This is actually more. This is a 41.8.
Okay, so yeah, it might actually be thicker.
It's
than my
thick.
Panerai.
It's thicker than your Panerai. It's slightly smaller than your Panerai.
All right, I guess.
Well, so I mean, we've had a guy on the show who's a big Lange believer. He's got us into Lange. That's Mike Manjos, which you have some history with him. And
Oh, I know him
so
a while back.
why don't we get into the show here? And today we're going to be talking about your experience in the watch world and kind of your view from it, right? So we all have different backgrounds, right? I started in pre-owned with a guy named O.J. Watley, who you know as well. Jason started primary with Tourneau. So
Whom I know well as well.
that's right. You spent some time with them as well. But
Yeah, I did my time.
yeah, here you go.
And then I broke out. But,
So Jason, can you mute your? There
everybody's very excited about our video. That's what.
All right. So why don't you tell us, number one, like your little bit of history, a rundown of where you started.
I'll tell you quickly about myself. I'm one of those rags to riches stories, but I don't want to take up the entire show. But was brought here at the age of 13 as a refugee. My dad came here with $4 in his pocket, raised in a 400 square foot apartment in Brooklyn, New York. Worked every job under the sun, busboy, dishwasher, blah, blah, blah. Park valet park cars, drove a bagel truck.
Bagel truck?
Yeah, that was one of my favorites.
Nice.
Joined the U.S. military, post-military, went into the corporate world, and by the time I was 26, I was a VP at a Fortune 500 company. Thought I made it big, and then I decided to give it all away and pursue my passion, which is watches. And if you want to talk about how I connect to you guys, Danny Godberg, who is the genius behind
Great man.
Watchbox, Godberg Jewelers, and everybody else, is sort of like a godfather to me. When I got into the business, he was a tremendous help, and he was one of the very, very few believers of guys selling stuff online.
Yeah.
Every other AD, every other guy in the watch business, they used to look at us like we were some second sort dealer, or
Right.
look down upon us, never believed in what we were talking about, not realizing that this is really the future. Oddly enough, during that time, there was only a handful of guys. And again, that time I'm talking about 17 years ago.
Sure.
It was only a handful of guys that are selling watches online. One of those guys was OJ Watley from Watch You Want.
Shout out to OJ.
So OJ, me and OJ, we're good friends. We often talked on the phone. We bounced ideas off of each other. And it kind of comes full circle now. It's funny that I'm here because, again, the very people behind these two great companies are the people that I knew from the day that I started.
Yeah.
Today, we're an online company. We sell watches and jewelry just like everyone else out there. We're also a pretty decent-sized wholesaler. That's how I know Mike.
That's right.
And I know Mike from his days in the other jewelry company. Won't give him a shout-out.
No.
But Tourneau I know from selling watches to them. You know,
Sure.
actually some of the guys are no longer there. One of the guys is with StockX now.
Yeah.
David is with
Yeah,
StockX
David.
now. We still do business based on a previous relationship.
Sure.
But watches is what I love. Watches is what I do. I live, breathe watches all day, every day. Jewelry as well, but jewelry is my secondary passion.
Sure.
Watches is what I really love, and what I love about them is everything. There's nothing I don't like about any watch, regardless of price,
Right.
popularity, etc.
So the interesting thing behind like the base of that story, obviously you're coming up and all that, but when it comes to what you do now, is how small the watch industry really is. Like we've talked about that before, Josh. A lot of people don't realize there's just a small handful of really big players in the game,
Right.
and you have all these online stores, you have all these little shops, but really there's a secret society, if you will,
Yeah.
of people behind the curtains that pull the strings. And a lot of even my customers start pitching a watch to here, and by the time it gets to me,
Yeah, we've
like,
already
been offered
Yeah,
that
we've
watch.
been offered this watch from somebody
so
else. Yeah.
it is interesting how it all kind of intertwines.
Well, that secret society just met a couple days ago in Miami.
I'll add to that, and I'll say that contrary to all belief, theoretically, Watchbox and Luxury Bazaar are competitive to each other. But those that know the industry will know that you're better off working with your competition. Letting the others do what they do best, and you do what you do best, and work together for overall successful relationship.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that we work against each other, but in the contrary, we really don't.
No, all boats rise. I always believe in that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you have something we need, or you have something that
Oh, absolutely.
or we have something you need, that's how we all.
And
work.
that's how I ended up on the YouTube show. I mean,
That's right.
in reality, if you think about it, why would I be here, or why
Right.
would I take you on my show?
Right.
You know.
Absolutely. So, all right. So that's gives you a little background on Roman. If you don't know him, which a lot of guys in the chat box they all know you. They've been watching your YouTube. Now,
They've been all telling me to come here.
yeah.
They're
Go to Watchbox. Go to Watchbox.
Well,
Here I am, guys.
We collaborate, man. So I mean, you've been on YouTube for about a year,
Yeah.
right? And we realized that this is a great way to connect with. It's a great community. So I started back with Tim like in 2014. On camera with him, I didn't know what to do with my hands. I was like, oh, very awkward and stuff. And now you see we're here, and it's great, man. And everybody I talk to, in any industry, but specifically watching, should get on you. It doesn't matter. Just get on YouTube and talk about watches. And I think it does. It grows the community, and it really, there's guys out in the middle of Oklahoma who don't have anybody to talk about watches, and now they can.
Right.
say,
You know why I got on YouTube?
Tell me.
Two reasons. Number one, my CMO said we need a face of the company. Sure. You're a walking encyclopedia on watches. You like being on camera.
Right. Charismatic.
You have a narcissistic personality. Get on camera and start talking.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, fine. And I went out onto the YouTube space and I started watches. Tim is a guy it was the first video I watched. And I'm like, crap, this guy really knows a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
if you're trying to be like Tim, you're making a mistake.
It's not possible. So I said to myself, you know what? I told my CMO this. I said, I'm only going to do what I do, and that's be myself. I'm going to tell it like it is. And I'm not going to sit there and get into nuts and bolts because there's a million guys, Tim being the best,
right.
that gets out there and talks about every single gear inside a watch. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to talk about the market. I'm going to talk about what I feel watches are worth, and I'm going to answer a bunch of questions based on the 17-year experience I had and have fun with it. And I believe that's what probably made me successful on my channel, because all my viewers say the same thing. You tell it like it is. Thanks for the straight up info. No subliminal messages. I don't ever try to sell anything on there. Even though,
everyone's for sale. Everything's for sale.
Everything's for sale. But the beauty part is guys get on there, they try to push product that doesn't work.
No.
If you get on there and you simply show product, you talk about the industry, you talk about the watches, you talk about the market, the sales will come. When I first started out in this business, I was lucky enough to meet a client who was a marketing guru. Mm-hmm. Name's Gregory. I won't mention his last name. Till this day, I have him on my cell phone. I call him from time to time. He told me, Roman, you must first and foremost educate your consumer. to an extent where they would feel stupid to buy anywhere else but you.
Yeah.
And I've been following that trend for the last 17 years I've been in the business, and it actually works.
Yeah.
And I think YouTube is just a wonderful, wonderful platform to do that with.
Right. Yeah, we use the same basic principles. Like, believe me, if you see Jason and I, we're not doing anything but being ourselves here, and I think that's important, right? We have experience.
I've watched your shows.
Josh and I just get on camera and Rick and Morty out, and
yeah, that's right.
But,
Speaking, hey, new season, check it out. All right, so you brought some watches in that really cool watch roll you have right there, and you brought
Don't
them.
show this one. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna hide it.
You unlike what we do, and what you at the departure from the normal, you did some sort of preparation where you have some watches for a reason here. So let's pop them out and let's talk about them.
Well, I'm not gonna say I prepared.
Yeah.
I literally finished the meeting. I had to leave my office at 4 o'clock to make it down here. Traffic was a bitch. I gotta be honest with you, getting down here. But I ran into the vault. I grabbed a bunch of watches because there were a few things that I wanted to talk with you guys and actually get your take on it, because it's good to get an outside opinion from time to time. I'm the one talking on camera when I'm on my YouTube channel, right?
Sure.
So it's often great to get an opinion. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is I wanted to talk about what's going on in the world of watches today, where people are not valuing horology overall. And it goes in the theme of the last show you guys did, or the one you sent me earlier.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where people are just going apeshit over stuff that's hot, stuff, not even considering things that are out there in terms of horological value rather than hype value.
Yep.
Right? Instagram.
Yeah, hype
watches,
beasts.
right?
That's the theme.
Exactly. So the first thing I brought with me, and I guess I'll start with the best or the most expensive, is I brought the AP Grand Comp. This is a perpetual calendar, minute repeater, skeleton, automatic. A retail value, how much? I told you.
Don't forget.
Don't forget the 60.
Don't forget
That's
the
right.
60
Don't
grand.
forget 60
$1
grand.
million $60,000.
I don't know where the hell that extra 60,000 came from.
For shipping.
This is the most the most complicated watch that AP makes to date, right? This is their Grand Comp.
This is current production?
They still make the
Still
Grand
make
Comp.
it. You just got to call them and pay ahead of
Exactly.
front.
Exactly.
No,
So
yeah, you don't see it, but-
here's a watch like this that is arguably the most, and it's also an automatic, by the way. And again, beautifully decorated movement. I mean, they pulled out all the stops on this watch.
The decorations where the
The
60 grand came from.
Wow.
Probably the
Yeah,
rotor.
they said,
Yeah.
you know what? Let's do the rotor too.
Yep.
60 grand.
Yep.
So a watch like this that retails for $1 million plus, 60,000, right? Today in the market will trade at around $350,000, and finding a buyer is not that easy. Yet you got guys out there paying that for NTPT carbon-rich
Right.
meals that are nearly not as complicated. So I feel like the market trend today has turned to a point where people are no longer appreciating horology for what it really is. One of the biggest questions I always get on my channel is this a good investment? Is this a good watch? Is this going to go up in value? I'm like,
Yeah, we've
guys,
heard that before.
you're losing sight of what's important when it comes to collecting watches and when it comes to falling in love with something. If somebody brought me an RM, right? Let's talk about. I'll give you one. Let's talk about the Jean Todd.
Okay.
It's an RM1103 chronograph.
Yeah.
With a date.
Yep.
There's your complicated watch. Watch retails for $178,000 today. Trades are roughly at $325,000, about the
Right.
same price as this. What would you rather have?
I mean, well, it depends on where. If I'm on a boat in the middle of,
Well, I mean,
in Dubai.
Okay.
segue. To be clear, though, so while I see obviously horological significance in the price point of that over the other watch, the guy that's buying that watch is not buying this watch.
Absolutely.
Right.
Not.
So
Yeah, it's not. They're not
guy-
even cut from the same cloth. Those guys have never even seen each other.
this guy, the guy that's buying this, are scooping these up now at pennies on the dollar and just sitting behind a desk laughing at everybody else buying,
The Jean
some of
Todd,
the other
right?
some of the stuff we brought. I mean that piece is. It's obviously pretty special, but like you said, hard as hell to find a buyer for that
So
watch.
I have an idea. I have a kind of a theory on this, right? So the watch, I'd say that the watch market has grown, right? Since like, so I started about 7 years ago, right? So since then, there's certainly more buyers, right? And those guys are a lot of those guys are chasing hype, right? So, but a lot of times the collectors kind of evolve through time, right? So the guys who are buying this are highly evolved collectors, guys who've been collecting for a long time, and they spend the time and they care about the actual movements and they understand why these things were made, right? Whereas a lot of the people now, a huge portion of the market are people chasing the hype because that's what they're seeing. So they might get into the watches because they see, all right, well, if I buy this, it might go up in value, and that's important to me, right? So that's the first step is for a guy who's never thought about buying a watch, gets into the watch world. So maybe he buys some watches, he ends up with like, I don't know, 20 Rolex, steel Rolexes, and he starts wearing one of them, right? And now he starts getting, now he's never worn a watch before, but he bought it because he thought he was going to make money on it. He got into it because he likes trading. Maybe he was a car guy, got into watches, right? Because things are crazy right now. So now he starts wearing one of them and actually starts getting scratched up. He's like, oh, well, I'll just keep this one. I made money on the rest. So now he gets comfortable wearing a watch. Now he starts thinking about watches, and then maybe 5 years from now, he's looking at different watches, and he's looking at independence, and then 10 years from now, he's looking at complications, and then 20 years from now, he's looking at a watch like this. So that's my theory on what's happening right now, where you're seeing
that was
watches.
Extremely specific.
You like that?
That was very specific.
That was, I'm so
that's a
glad
good
you
theory.
just thought of that.
He
That
did
was,
forget one thing.
That was crazy specific.
He did forget one thing. Coincidentally, the last 7 years was also the rise of social media. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It was also,
which we've talked about before on
everything
here,
revolves
too.
around Thanos.
I have
just the
customers.
last 7 years.
I have customers that literally change their watches once a month. They'll buy something and they'll trade it in a month later, or sometimes even 2 weeks later, for the next Instagram post.
We know a guy like that.
Yeah,
he's watching right now. My boy.
So,
whoa,
Shelby, what's up? Should I?
Whoa.
First name's Oli.
So, but I have clients like that too. The idea behind that is any loss is play money, and also what's the cost of not being into this hobby? So he's gonna, gamble. He's gonna instead let's fly to Vegas. So it's just all play money, right. Or opportunity cost at owning a second watch, a third watch, a fifth watch. So
I know guys, but I also know guys that have lost significant savings.
Yeah.
I was here in 2008 when the crash happened. And I know guys that put away so many watches as an investment instead of any other investments like real estate, stock market, whatever it might be. And they've taken a tremendous loss to an extent where they overextended themselves investing into watches. Right. You're going to say this is not an investment.
No,
no.
Like? It's hard enough for people who do it for a living to make money on it. Yeah. If you're doing it as a side gig, I mean, it's tough. Yeah. Buying watches and holding them as an investment is very tough.
So before we go so far down that rabbit hole, very, very specific scenarios.
Yeah.
Let's pull the second watch out because we got a ton of watches here.
Yeah.
Well, if we're gonna stick with the same theme,
okay.
I'll ask you guys once again. I mean, you were pretty amazed by my Langate.
Yeah.
Retail $214 and change, right?
Okay.
On a secondary market, pre-owned, this watch, we're gonna sell it what, $130?
Yeah.
Plus minus.
Right. Yeah.
RM30.
Ooh.
Rose gold.
RM what? No, I'm just
RM30. Rose gold. I'll let you guys do a close up on that one. And this is a watch that retails for $120,000, right? That's its official retail price, and it's a watch that trades for $130,000, $10,000 over sticker.
List, right?
Now you tell me which one.
So again, it goes back to: are you buying the watch for the hype? Or are you buying the watch for the true horological value? And that's what I mean. Right now, there's so much hype. It's crazy, right? So that's bizarre, because I remember 5 years ago when people were treating RMs. Exactly. I remember when people were treating RMs like Hublots, right? Like they were worried. They were like, these are very expensive. There's not a lot of horological value. It's mostly hype. It's gonna die, and then things just.
I was there when they raised his retail prices by 40%. I was trading RM11s, white golds, rose gold, titaniums. One thing I did like about him is he never really differentiated much in retail values between metals. Like his thing is, my watches are worth what they're worth. It doesn't matter what the metal is, because again, there's no value in gold there anyway.
Yeah. Smart man.
The year he decided to raise his retail prices by 40% and cut production arguably by about 70 to 80%, nobody really knows, but he did.
Right.
Everybody said he's nuts. He just shot himself in the foot.
Yep.
And guess what? It worked.
It worked out for him so far.
It worked out for him so far.
Waiting list for $150,000 watches.
The thing too is like there's never been a brand where it's like so every once in a while there's just such a strategic like post, or it just shows up on somebody's wrist, or it's this like underground collector culture that they just skyrocket.
I'll give you a thing. All right, you're somebody that has 5 million followers on Instagram.
Okay.
Whether you're a celebrity or an Instagram celebrity, you're famous in some way, sort of shape or form. You walk into Richard Mille today, and you say, I am such and such, and I have a 10 million following across social media, like real following.
Sure.
Right? They will sell you any watch you want.
Yeah.
Pun intended. What you want. But
I like that.
You know what I mean? But if you're a regular Joe and you walk in there, you get on the waiting list.
Yep.
Or you have to buy, a dog, which there aren't really many dogs at this point in their lineup. Maybe some of the round watches, the really expensive tourbillons, right? I was in St. Bart's. I walked into the Richard Mille boutique. And she's like, well, if you buy that Crystal Lady 007 for $1.1 million, you can have whatever you want. I'm like, thank you, and I'll see you later.
Right. How am I going to get my $800,000 back?
Exactly. So, well,
that might be generous.
You'd be shocked that watch still trades close to its retail
So
value.
did you buy it? Do you have this in inventory?
Hell no. My wife liked it. I'm gonna, I love her and all, but not that much.
No, not yet.
So that's kind of the craze I wanted to bring up is that we do live in the world of followers.
Sure.
It's all about the followers. And when I say followers, I'm specifically talking about social media. And I feel that social media has a huge impact on watch collectability, as we know today, the watch market. As we know,
change everything.
The very reason why we're sitting here going live on YouTube and have YouTube channels. Are we live? I hope we're live.
Yeah.
I'm alive.
So the next thing, and I'm going to bring up another topic, which I think is near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure you guys can both attest that on your YouTube channels, you always get asked the question, what's the next big thing? What's the next big investment? And I tell my clients all the same thing, all my YouTube viewers. I don't have a crystal ball.
Right.
I can state my opinion based on. You have one?
Well, we have it right there.
Well, that's not exactly crystal.
Brevet.
Yeah.
Plastic.
Eddie does
close.
Eddie does a good job.
He
with
does
those,
a great
brother.
job.
He does a great job with
That's
those.
right.
But
Call me if you want one.
and I always say that the only thing I can do is I can formulate my opinion based on today's market,
Right.
based on today's market conditions, and based on history, and not far history, because going back 15 years, watches get old and things change, trends change. I can only give you an educated guess. But I did bring something which I felt like were sleepers in my mind.
Sure.
And why do I feel that it's a sleeper? Just based on the facts that I know. So the first thing I'm going to pull out, watch this part of I call it quote unquote Holy Trinity. I don't believe in all that stuff, but
Not anymore.
we're talking about a Vacheron Royal Eagle in stainless steel. So why? Oops.
Look,
why
it almost looks like a Richard Mille.
Whoa.
I take it far. So why did I decide, in my opinion, that this is a sleeper? Well, it was the very first take from Vacheron on a sports model. Right?
Okay.
2001 is when the watch came out, and it was short-lived. It only lived till either 2006 or 2008. I don't remember.
That's right.
But a short while for a watch model, right? So arguably, not many of these made. Now, granted, they were in black dials, they were rose gold. Obviously, the steel is the collectible one, and that's just historically speaking, people collect steel stuff, steel Rolex, steel Rolex, and so on and so forth. So I'm not out here telling you that this is a sleeper. I'm out there telling you to use common sense when you're looking sort of for that next collectible. And if you pick a watch like this that you know that they made low numbers of, that you know was a first of something or the last of something, first and last usually work great, right?
What Roman isn't telling you is that he's got a box full of those at home.
So the thing is, like that, there might be a sleeper because you can justify in your mind, like, oh, maybe that's why I should own that. When you call a dealer, though, unless it's you, I don't know how many people are buying those.
Oh, the market is shit on them
But
now.
that's why it makes sense.
It.
Absolutely. So I see what you're saying. You're saying look for things that are oddballs, things that people are not valuing now. And
you
that's the
can
same thing with
find joy in
Daytonas.
it.
I was talking to a dealer that we both know at the show in Miami. He was talking about in the 80s when he was buying Daytonas. This is pre-Zenith Daytonas. So these are manual wind Daytonas for $350 and selling them for $450. And that was a good sale if he could get it at that. And now we're talking about,
Let me guess, the guy was from Chicago?
Yeah, exactly. So, those were watches that nobody wanted because they weren't automatic and it wasn't what people thought about as a Rolex. And now, if you have one of those sitting in your safe, you got $50, $60, $100,000 depending on which model it is. It's unbelievable. So, looking for things that are out of vogue at the moment and things that are being devalued at the moment, future collectibles. That's what we're talking about.
It's almost like a guy that walks in and finds a red line sub full box papers for a rip.
Yeah.
It's funny you should go back to the good old days. About 8 years ago we partnered up with another company. We merged actually two companies together. That's how we got into the jewelry business. I was never a jeweler by trade, and these guys are from the days when gold presidents were brought to them, they would literally take a hammer and melt them
down. Yep.
It's crazy. When I heard those stories, I'm like, are you Daytonas too? Yeah, sure. Who cares? Daytona.
Well, the gold was worth more than the watch at that time.
Yeah, but you know what's a tragedy is the ones that they melted down were probably like super straight bracelets, all tight. Now you get ones that are all loose and everything. Why didn't they melt those down?
Oh,
some good examples.
Some cool dials out there, I'm sure, and things like that.
Question for you guys. You know, if I'm going to get into the next watch.
Okay.
Iconic watches.
Okay.
Everybody in their mind, every collector in their mind, every watch lover in their mind has a list of icons that they feel is a must of every single collection. Yeah. Give me a couple of your icons.
Put it right on the spot.
He's too thoughtful is the problem. He's not impulsive.
There's too many, to be honest. So I don't know. The sub for me is pretty iconic. That's for a sport watch. Calatrava, simple 3-hand Calatrava is probably an iconic dress watch for
real
me.
Patek.
A real Patek. Shout out to the 5212 that I just sold today. The weekly. That thing's
cool.
Yeah. Much nicer in person than it photographs. But as far as iconic, obviously I like AP quite a bit. I actually am one of probably the only dealers in the world that like the Royal Oak Offshore more than like the 15400s and stuff like that.
You're not.
No.
For
me, it's the AP. There's too many, honestly.
Well, that's good enough. How about you?
So I would say that the most iconic watch that's ever been made, is a watch that anybody, doesn't matter what you know about watches, if you know anything about watches, everybody can identify the watch for the brand at least. And that's the Rolex President. I think that, in my opinion, we don't think about it as much because we're in the thing. But before I knew anything about watches, if you show me a Rolex President, I go, okay, that's a Rolex, and that's what everybody feels. So as it's not super horologically sound, and it's kind of flashy and sometimes a little bit of a douchey kind of watch, that's the most iconic watch I think that's ever been made, in my opinion.
And that's awesome. And much like you, I can't pick one or the best one.
Sure.
But I like the history behind some of these pieces. For example, this to me is iconic simply due to the fact that this is the longest running watch company out there continuously.
Without question.
260 some years now, right?
That's right.
But there are also icons within every brand that I felt that were so different. And that's how I look at icons. I look at those things that are done like no other company does it. Before we went live, we talked about the Coram Bridge.
Yeah.
Right? To me, that's an icon.
Yep.
Nobody did a bridge prior to that.
Jason loves Coram
Another
Bridges,
one
by the way.
is the Reverso.
Yeah.
Right? 1931.
That's right.
Let me show you one. So,
Super
to me,
undervalued watch.
Not your large 1931 reissue 1931.
No, this is an actual 1931.
Yes, this is an actual old.
Here, put it next to your thumb so you can see the size of that
Yeah,
thing.
let's do that.
It's beautiful though.
So.
Well, the thing is, so it's small looking, but on the wrist, because it's rectangular.
No, it's small.
It's small. Let's
But
just go with it.
if
It's
you
small.
compare that to other watches from that era, that's a large watch.
But if, as a watch collector, you don't necessarily have to go out there and find yourself one of these, which, by the way, today
makes
is
an awesome desk watch.
There you go. But there's so many reversers out there. They made a lot of reversos. There's a huge supply of reversers out there that they can picked up for no money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and this indeed is an icon. A Coram Admiral's Cup is another one.
Absolutely.
Is an icon.
O.J. Watley, big fan of the Coram Admiral's Cup. I like Admiral's
The
Cup
original ones, the original vintage ones, they're just too tiny. I don't with that bullet bracelet. I'm not a big fan of those.
He's got the blue one or something.
But that was one of the first watches for me that's like, all right, there's too many now. It's crazy. Like when the Admiral's Cup, they just started every year. There's 7 or 8 or 12.
Coram doesn't even make that many watches.
Like, what are we doing? And then it was the first. So the first boutique that popped up that wasn't like a main brand that I saw in person was Coram. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, well, what the hell are they thinking? And then 3 months later, doors shut.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, well,
I mean, I'm not going to get into their business practices and what they do behind the scenes and stuff in terms of
help them out.
In terms of marketing.
I feel like there's so much potential that just wasted.
Yeah. You know, they got great history, make cool watches.
Nardine Freak.
Oh, yeah. Nardine as well. And by the way, I like a brand that does well with service, right? Who actually services their watches well and has good customer service. I think is a lot of value. Nardine is super undervalued with that. Their service center for the U.S. is in Boca. You can call. They're great people. They'll pay attention to you. They're not just $2 an hour employees who don't give a crap. And they'll service all their watches, and it's very affordable. I get
those complaints all the time from guys that send their stuff in for service for something so simple, and they with a bill yay long.
Oh, God.
And they send out a list of things that is so unnecessary to do to a watch. I mean, it's like they have to make money somewhere. Mm-hmm. And, cars they have to service, and they make money that way. A watch, for the most part, I have the original Beast 1993 offshore.
Okay.
Right? That thing is beat to shit.
Right.
And guess what? I haven't had it serviced in over 10 years.
Yeah. And it's still ticking?
Oh, it maybe goes slow a couple of minutes a week. Mm-hmm. Who cares?
Right.
What a lot of guys don't understand is service is really not all that necessary if you're a single owner of the watch. But they do get caught up with this whole service, and they get charged an arm and a leg, where you guys can service watches at a fraction of a cost. Mm-hmm. So there's really no need to go elsewhere.
There's different types of guys, though. Mm-hmm. There's guys, like, if my watch is plus or minus 8 seconds instead of 5, I could give less of a shit.
He's one of those.
He doesn't care.
I honestly have been like, okay, oh man, it's a minute. It's been a week. It's a minute. I'll move it. But there are guys that are like, my Grand Seiko is the best movement in the world because it is this. And if it's not plus or minus 1 second, then I don't want the watch. And while I get that, like you're missing so much. There's just you can't even get into
handmade
vintage watches.
Well, people expect these things to be running like an Apple Watch on GPS time. It's like, listen, this was made literally by hand, and that's part of the reason why it's so great.
Tell time most of the time.
Right,
anyway.
exactly. I mean, so while I do use my watches to tell time and actually for cooking and things like that, like I'm not looking for this thing to be so unbelievably precise. I like it because a lot of for the most part it's mostly handmade. So this is something that somebody took time to make. Right, that's part of the reason why I like watches. If I wanted something that was going to keep the most amazing time, I'd go buy some sort of quartz watch.
And of course, we're talking about my Rolex and your Panerai being handmade, one of a piece, definitely not mass produced at all.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But at the end of the day, I think the idea is that, like, yes, I want it to tell time, I want it to be accurate, but it doesn't need to be like I'm not disarming a bomb with the thing. Right? Like,
exactly.
So plus or minus, 30 to 60 seconds a week.
I actually know how to do that. I was a scout in the military. I know how to disarm mines.
Well, there's one under your. It's a pressure plate on your chair. So
by the way, that's how we're gonna end the show. It's gonna be very exciting.
Stick around for a bang.
You guys talk about usability, right?
Yes.
So we talked about looking at your iPhone for precise time, not worrying about. And I agree with that. I sometimes my watches are not even set. I wear them.
Right.
When I was on the way here, it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should set it for the show. But complications within the watch, and I talked about this before too many times with a lot of my clients and viewers. What complications out there are really useful that you would use today, in your opinion? What's the one useful complication out there?
GMT.
My favorite complication, so I like the GMT a lot, but honestly, I think a very slept-on complication is a power reserve.
Yeah.
I agree with him. That's my thing. Power reserve, especially on the manual wine watch, I think is probably the most useful complication.
So let's take it. It solves an actual problem, which is why it should be a complication. Like,
people don't look at it as a complication sometimes.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people
are
like,
oh, it's a plus. But it is.
And I like power reserves. I think power reserves on the back of a movement are cool, but don't quite serve the same purpose. Those are more like desk watch complications. And I, to a similar degree, like sub-seconds don't really do anything for me. Power reserve, I think, is great. I love if I'm going to have a date like Vacheron or a large date, like a grande date or longue, which is one of the reasons I really like the brand with the no zero. I think those are the most useful complications. Chronograph, once you're starting to get stuff like that, yes.
Chronograph's useful cooking. I use
diver's bezel. It's very useful, but like a day-to-day...
Is that a complication, diver's bezel? Count that?
Well, you can. I mean, let's call it a function. Let's not call it a complication. And it is useful. If you're into diving, that is extremely useful. And I have clients that specifically will only wear mechanical watches when they go diving. So the Blancpain 50, the big the big sucker, that's probably the most popular one to go diving. And then of course Panerai as a brand overall.
Sure.
For me, you guys said it. I mean, for me, I would just mention one more. I mean, power reserve. Is a big one for me. GMT is another big one for when I travel all over the place. So GMT is actually really useful, especially at a glance. Nardine is probably my favorite one. The plus minus is so easy. And at a glance, you see your home time and you know what time it is. So to me, it's probably the easiest one. Like the Executive would be a great watch, right?
Yeah. Pick
And
that up cheap.
Third one is Alarm. I think Alarm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Alarm is one of those useful
Why
complications.
do I feel like there's an alarm in this?
There's no alarm.
I thought you were segueing into
Hey
perfect.
Siri, set an alarm.
Careful.
No, I don't have, but my favorite alarm probably be the Brigade Alarm, the 5707.
All right.
The reason I like it is because not only it really rings loud, it also vibrates the watch. So if you have it on your wrist, it'll actually go off. And when I'm in Hong Kong with a 12-hour jet lag and I'm dozing off at the show,
Starts you up.
Yeah.
Two alarms off the top of my head that I would. Panerais are cool, but
KM98. Check it out.
Budget alarm, Volcane.
Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic budget alarm. Medium price point, or I guess it's still budget, but the Tudor Advisor, I think is a very, very cool alarm that looks like an expensive watch. It's not that expensive.
How about the vintage Jaegers?
They're cool.
Absolutely.
You can pick them up for no money.
They're cool, but they're also like I want as little moving parts in a vintage watch as possible. I do not want a vintage
exactly.
alarm.
A hammer inside of a vintage watch.
Hey guys, here's my vintage.
Well, you can't.
Brand complication, and
there's no Wet Watch Wednesday with a vintage watch, and that's a problem for me. So I can't. I have some vintage watches, but I can't wear them. I just have them. I like to look at them.
I am a 5402. The first Royal Oak from Genta is probably what gets most wear time from me. My Beast Offshore gets a lot of wear time from me. Zenith Rolexes. You know, I have a few yellow gold Zenith Rolexes, which I think are also a great pickup right now. If you're looking at the steel trading at almost the same price as these guys, you're saying to yourself, why or two-tone? Why
Nobody
am I not
wants
buying
a two-tone. It's crazy.
Why am I not buying this
seeing
watch?
Two-tone Skydwellers. We're seeing a huge movement now.
They're going up now.
Everybody's like, well, why wouldn't I just buy the damn gold one instead of the steel one?
Right.
But they're also a good-looking watch.
No,
I think a two-tone Skydweller.
I like two-tone. Like traditionally, two-tone's always been like the third best value when you look at steel, solid gold, and two-tones. Two-tone's always been looked at. It doesn't. I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense because it's the best marriage of both, right? Two-tones. Well, I remember. So again, like I've only been doing this for 7 years. I remember when you get Zenith Daytonas, that's the least desirable Daytonas. Where the Zenith Daytonas, dealers are buying for $5,000 and $6,000, sell them for $7,000 and $8,000, and now it's absurd. But the two-tones, we're just like they get shit on. And right now, you can buy for half the price of a steel Zenith Daytona, you can buy a two-tone.
Some of the older ones you're buying anywhere from $8,000 to $9,000.
Right.
Again, I'm talking wholesale, and I think it's a smoking deal. But people, unfortunately, are stuck on the fact that two-tone is I can't quite afford gold yet, which makes zero sense. Look at the current two-tone Submariner. I think it's a gorgeous watch.
Oh, yeah.
I think it blows the stainless steel one out.
Blue or black?
What? Blue.
I like black.
I like
I got you.
I like the blue.
Yeah.
Not with the current
blue
dial.
and
The thing is, if I want black, I'm wearing steel. If I want blue, I think the gold marries with the blue. But I love the Smurf.
All right. So what favorite two-tone watch? What's up?
Favorite two-tone watch, honestly. Yeah, it's probably the black two-tone Submariner. Yeah, that's probably going to be that or the two-tone GMT that's been discontinued. That's really nice. Yeah. Yellow gold.
Favorite two-tone? I can't do on the spot shit.
That's okay.
I got 50 watches going through my head and I can't.
I like the
Jason's
old
not
school. I like the old AP back in the day. Did watches out of tantalum.
Okay, yeah.
Remember tantalum?
Yeah.
It's that it looks like titanium, but it's not. It's a lot heavier, right? It's actually heavier than gold. So they did tantalum and rose gold watches.
Yeah.
Perpetuals, regular Royal Oaks. I think that's a sick combo.
We have 36 actually. We brought it at the show.
I saw it at the show. You guys, we had the 36mm plain
I think
Jade
we own it
Royal
for a
Oak.
little too much, so it's going to be sticking in our inventory for a while. It's sick, yeah.
How much? Let's make a deal.
Too much is the answer.
No, I like that combo. I just think the rose gold with that dark gray tantalum was a striking combo
Tantalum
for me.
It's a weird material because so you see like the FP Journe, the CBs made out of tantalum. It's incredibly tough to refinish. So if you nick it up or whatever, it's a nightmare. But the watch is so.
I got a guy.
Yeah, he's got a guy.
It's not hard to do. It's just very
hard to do it right.
You have to have talent, to do it. And
so like you can get a watch like the Omega Seamaster, the old ones where they just reeditioned as well with a little bit of tantalum in the bracelet. That's so cool, man. I like that. And it adds some heft to the watch that you don't even feel, or you don't see the heft, but you could feel it on the wrist. I don't know.
Guys, I feel like I'm the only one showing watches. Why don't you show me some? Because I know you.
We grabbed watches that I think that you like.
We brought stuff that we were gonna make fun of, and then you brought real watches.
Stuff, yeah.
So
but so all the stuff here is stuff
that's the
I know
perfect
that you like.
Budget RM replacement there.
Without a doubt.
I don't want to call these guys the RM replacement, and
well, you didn't. I did.
Okay, and I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you. I'll tell you why, because I feel that this is a brand that's on its way up.
I love the brand. I always have. I do not like the new pieces.
You don't like these?
Love
You don't like
the
this?
old pieces. They're okay. They're, in my opinion, that specific one's the larger size, and it's a little too big for me. For what they're making, but I love the brand. I like these watches. I just think that they've kind of the brand.
For anybody listening on the podcast, we're talking about the Roger Dubuis here. Sorry.
So the Roger Dubuis, I mean,
Easy Diver, hands down, one of the fucking coolest watches.
For me, well, I actually am gonna go with Goldberg Jr. I love the old Sympathy calendars.
The original. The one he bought is one.
First of all, we told him to buy that watch, and he was like, "Should I buy this?"
Yeah.
I sold the one last.
I'm saying the one that he owns,
the one that
personally.
He wears. He wears the small one.
Yeah, he wanted the one with the round crystal, and we had to talk him into the one with the actual shaped crystal.
Those watches are. You talk about a value. You can get like a first generation Roger Dubuis full set box of papers. You're talking about now. If that's a Patek, that is 10x what you're paying for. You can buy those watches for less than $20,000 right now.
Sick.
Unbelievable watches, especially with the box set. The papers of that watch are literally it's a Polaroid of the watch stuck on the papers. It's like the presentation is unbelievable.
What about the little lead seal? We forgot about that.
No, that's right.
The little lead seal.
Yep, that's right.
So to go back to Rogers, my whole take is I was there during the times where they got screwed by the distributor and the watches were getting closed out and they were out there pennies on a dollar. And then there was a big lawsuit, and I'm sure Danny knows more about that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not what the show is about. It took them so long to rebound, and I finally feel like these guys are actually on the rebound just based on the stuff that they're making. What they showed this year, I think, was amazing. Their collab with Lambos is amazing.
Makes sense.
And what they're doing is they're also not afraid to stick with the high pricing. Look at what Nardine is doing. Ever since Nardine business went down, granted Russia went down, which was a huge chunk out of their business, right? And all the other former Soviet republics, right? Roger didn't stop. Nardine went to cheaper watches. They started making these freaks at $20,000 and Turbians at $20,000. These guys stuck to a low production number, wonderful design. Again, my opinion. I just happen to love their new stuff, all of it. There's not one watch I don't like from them.
The collaborative efforts make a lot of sense, like the Pirelli, the
Straps.
Lamborghini, collabs. I like where the direction the brand's going, but some of the stuff like the double barrels and they're up there, man. They're
the price point you're saying?
Yeah, and it's a brand. Essentially, what I don't want to see is them get too far away from where they came from. That you can't look at this and go, oh, that's an RD.
I agree with
like
you.
so. I'm waiting for the next Easy Diver, and kind of a callback to that case shape, but do it a little smaller and make it more modern for today's. But I do like, and we've talked about like material sciences. Like I like all the carbon. I like the the exposed dials. They're on a good path. They have the quick release straps, all that stuff. I just if you're going to try and capture like that secondary RM customer, then you have to provide this stuff.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to become like they're not that brand anymore. So
do you feel like they're just not going back to their roots enough, because they do have a lot of roots to go back to?
Well,
like the Sympathy Perpetuals.
Well, those movements.
So
I mean, those movements you could compare to a Longa.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. And nowadays, you're not comparing a Roger Dubuis to a Longa in any way, shape, or form.
What are your thoughts on? It's a watch I still can't get my head around. I've sold a bunch of them at a retarded price, and that was the Knights of the Round Table.
Oh, the Knights of the Round Table. What do you think, Jason?
Sick, dude.
Yeah, Jason likes it. He loves it.
I'm all about it because I think it exactly goes back to that like
Artesian
this
roots.
is who we are,
right?
And everybody looks at it and goes, what the hell is that?
And why is
but
it so
it's like,
expensive,
you know
right?
what?
Right.
Screw you. This is who we are, and I dig it. And
the last one I had.
It's got swords on it, so I'm all about it.
It's got weapons.
But I think.
What
it's
about the
super
fact
cool.
that every single one of those
It's hand
figurines
done,
is hand done and
that's
casted?
amazing.
Yeah.
I
That
had
kind of stuff
I had
is-
one of those things. I sold it to a guy in Russia, and I sold
Surprise.
the first one for $175,000. And a lot of times, like we talk about justifying prices on some of these things. Kudos to them by setting the price at $225 or $250, whatever the retail is, and that those watches are actually holding and people are recognizing them, even though it's not a complicated watch.
I'm gonna say the lost opportunity for like a sword and a stone that you can pull out in the box set.
In the box set.
It definitely needed like a sword
You
and
ever
a
see
stone.
the box? You ever see the box that watch
Yeah.
comes in? It's literally.
I understand, but it needed like a pewter stone and sword for your desk that like you could.
And a little drawer for your 9mm.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, well, if you have that watch, probably carrying.
You probably want.
All right, so here
there's a blue 28 there that needs some camera time.
We're doing a time check here, so we got about 5 more minutes. So let's talk about another watch. So in terms of like smaller brands or artisanal brands, and then independent brands, this is a brand that we really like. What are your thoughts on De Bethune?
I think the watches are.
By the way, we love De Bethune, so.
I love the brand.
How about this? How about there's not one independent that I don't like?
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna start with the biggest independent, and I feel like the godfather of all independents is definitely Sven Anderson. That's in my opinion.
Sure.
But when you get into De Bethunes, they are constantly struggling between making and creating a market versus low production numbers. So what happens, and I've talked about this all the time, is if you don't have a market on something, it's very hard for watches to hold their value. I guess I should hold it up so you guys can see it. There we go.
I was meant to do that.
Not the front. There you go.
So
That's better.
I guess it's guys out there that are still stuck with the idea that my watch is an investment and I want resale value. And we all know that independence, resale value, and independence are usually terrible.
Unless it's F. Pigeon these days.
But is F. Pigeon really an independent?
Well, I mean, now it's partly owned by Chanel, but Okay.
And he's a lot more mainstream.
He himself is very independent.
Yeah, maybe.
As a person.
Yes, yes.
So we've just added a new subclass to independent.
Exactly. So,
semi-independent watchmakers.
But guys tell me, hey, listen, I have this watch. They only made 5 pieces in the world. It should be worth $1 gazillion. Well, why? There's really no market on that watch.
Right.
You take a limited edition of 1,000 pieces, like say Juan Pablo Montoya that I was selling initially. Original retail was $14,700. I was selling it from 15 all the way out to 35, and now they're back down to about 26, 27, which is still 10,000 over their retail value.
List,
A market was actually made over time. These guys make so little pieces, and because they're not mainstream brands and less known, and because they do avant-garde stuff like this, how can you not love this watch?
That watch is amazing.
This is a ridiculous watch.
I don't know that there's a more comfortable watch on the wrist than
this thing is absolutely amazing.
I don't like that strap with the integrated rubber into the lugs. I like the standard
like,
strap.
Sits it in here.
Just
No,
because I feel like you have
saying.
such cool architecture in here that this
Get
strap
rid of
doesn't
that.
take advantage
Get
of it.
rid of that.
But they've done that. They have the other strap.
Right.
And I think this is the long lug version. I like the short lug version a little bit better because it sits better on the wrist. But the watch is super cool.
Talk about iconic, man. This can be mistaken for no other watch.
I think that the one watch I've put away is the original Urbex. You know, remember those, those round ones?
Have you seen the gold tones?
Yes. Yeah,
Super
the full
sick.
gold. It's great.
So I will give an A+ to Jimmy Thune. I will give an A+ to MB&F, to Urbex. I will give an A+ to any independents out there because they're doing avant-garde and cool stuff. But I believe it's not until a watch becomes mainstream is when the resale value gets better and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
You
it
know
takes
what
time.
you know what I think the independents of today. And when I say today, let's go back 5 years, not more. I think these are the collectibles 50 years from now. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
on
but
pretty
no,
much every
it
independent.
doesn't matter what the commodity is. Like any early adopter is not going to be the benefactor of that.
Absolutely.
Exactly right.
You're
But
always
that's
gonna
usually the
take-
case with watches.
Yeah, well, watches, anything really. But I mean, you pay the price to be the big boy to wear that first.
What about the guys that bought these colorful offshores 10 years ago for $45,000 and they're trading in mid-teens? Watches do slowly but surely become icons, even some of the ugly ones, you know, and that's why it's all relative in time, and that's why I always tell guys the same thing. Watches are not an investment. Watches are expensive toy. Buy them, enjoy them. Don't concern yourself with resale value and what you're going to get for your watch once you get tired of it.
It's a store of value. That's what I look like. You can spend your money on some other luxury good that as soon as you spend that money, it's all gone. Or you can be an intelligent watch buyer or intelligent buyer, buy something that's going to retain, say, the majority of its value, depending on what you're buying, especially pre-owned. You're not going to, most likely not going to make money because that's a stressful pursuit if you're going to go after watches. But you can spend $10,000 and get back $7,000. There's not a lot of luxury goods you can do that with.
Think about cars. You know, drive out the parking lot, you lose half the value on a brand new car.
I'm
Guys,
very
how
upside down on my car.
about speaking of buying? Talk about Dubai.
Oh yeah.
I wanna know about that.
That's right. So at this, we're coming to a close here, and that actually is a great segue. So guys,
Show's
tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be having the first edition of our Dubai Watch Week show. So, guys, if you don't know anything about what we're doing in Dubai, we are taking Dubai by storm, and we decided to launch during Dubai Watch Week, which is going on now. So we have some amazing content. Tim, Mike Manjos, Sequan Gottlieb is going to be on there. So 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, the 21st of November. That's right. All right, guys. So listen, we're gonna end this here because we can go on for another 3 hours.
We're gonna stop recording, but we're just
Okay,
keep
we're just gonna
talking.
sit
Yeah, we're gonna
watches.
keep talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to the bar.
The whiskey's coming.
There you go.
Yeah.
But all right, listen. I want to absolutely thank you for coming by, Roman.
It's been a pleasure.
This is great. We learned a lot today.
It was nice to meet you in person finally.
That's right. Yeah.
This
So,
was a lot of fun, guys. We should definitely do this again. Maybe we'll go on my set next.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I can certainly bring out a lot more watches. I did want to travel with a lot more.
Yeah.
But back on my set, I can show you a lot more cool stuff, and we can definitely discuss it.
All right.
It's been a lot of
Feels
fun.
good.
Thanks, guys. Again,
you, guys.
hey, make sure you like, subscribe, check us out on Instagram. My Instagram is Mr. Thanos. This is Evo something or other.
Evo_watches.
You have Instagram?
And I'm Roman Sharf on YouTube and Roman Sharf on Instagram. It's that
Watchbox ME for our Dubai watch box. We have all sorts of watch boxes. You guys can check us out on all
the
different
boxes.
platforms.
It's all
Check
the
us out on Uber Eats. You can check us out on Tinder. Swipe
He
right
does
on
this
us.
thing where